Bernie should be out right now calling out Joe Biden's total lack of any type of response during this coronavirus pandemic. And don't mind the helmet and the GoPro, just out here on a little bike ride, and I was just doing some cool GoPro shots on the gravel and a few other things. But anyways, like I was saying, Bernie should be out there just hammering away at the fact that Biden, where's Joe Biden? He's MIA right now. We're experiencing a coronavirus pandemic. It's having huge, obviously disastrous consequences for people's health, the economy. It's spreading like crazy. Bernie Sanders is out there, having virtual roundtables, has a very robust plan, calls for giving each person in the US $2,000 a month until this is over, as well as 100% unemployment insurance up to $75,000, no student loan payments right now, no foreclosures, no utility shutoffs, help with rent, all of this, type of stuff. So, no evictions, I should say as well. Where is Joe Biden at? He has been completely missing in action since that debate performance where he actually did pretty well, and right after that, obviously it was a big relief to his handlers. They put him back on the shelf, and we haven't heard a peep since a week ago, and we're again experiencing a pandemic. Goldman Sachs analyst projected that this week up to 2.5 million people in the US lost their jobs. If that number stands true, which it seems like they were just using some different data to kind of project onto that, but it seemed pretty reasonable estimate. 2.5 million people, the most in US history, potentially lost their jobs last week. And at this time of both economic and a healthcare crisis, a public health crisis, Joe Biden, we haven't heard anything, and this is the candidate that the Democratic establishment is propping up. He can't even, put out a 5 or 10 minute video or do a roundtable once a week. Bernie Sanders has done multiple. He's having these fireside chats, all of these things, putting out these really robust, progressive, and just common sense policies to help address this issue. And Joe Biden, again, crickets. And, it's just the sad truth that a lot of the Democratic establishment, the Democratic elites, the wealthy and the powerful of the Democratic Party would prefer former years of Trump than a Bernie Sanders presidency. And, that's really sad, and it's literally costing people their lives right now, this crisis, and it's getting worse by the day. It's going to continue to spread. We need to be practicing social distancing, only going out for absolute essentials like grocery shopping or to get gas for your car, things like that. Or if you have to work in one of these very important sectors like the food industry, grocery stores, people growing food, people picking it. Thank you to a lot of the migrant farm workers that are here in the US doing some really important work, putting food on our tables, as well as all of the grocery store workers putting their literally lives on the line, and a lot of them aren't even being paid emergency wages or hazard wages. Some companies are, which they should be, and they should be getting paid, I would say, at least double, honestly, if not more. If you're having to put yourself, literally potentially contract the Corona-19 virus, the COVID-19 virus, and it could kill you, you should be getting paid really freaking good money to have to go through that. So obviously people in the healthcare field, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, all of those fields, just a big shout out to everybody putting their safety at risk each day to make sure, sorry, just walking down these steps, ooh, don't want to forget my shades, putting their lives at risk each day to make sure we have things like food and, you know, water, and if we get sick with this or something else, people to take care of us at the hospital. And, you know, kudos to all of those people. And you know, obviously, you know, the correct response right now is to help out the, just gonna do a little walk around because it's really beautiful out here, helping out the working class, the working people, the most vulnerable and marginalized when the economy tanks like it has right now. The imperative, always the first reaction by the you know, corporate wings of both the Democrat and Republican parties, which you know, it's a good chunk of them are, even, you know, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, and who's the Speaker of the House, and Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of the Senate. Their first reaction, and these are Democrats, mind you, was to balk at the Republicans, people like Romney and others wanting to give people $1,000 a month to everybody, just universal. Schumer, Pelosi, their first reaction, no, let's means test it. This is the Democrats being to the right of the Republicans on this issue, on economic matter, at least the corporate wing at that point. And then, you know, you have people like Bernie proposing $2,000 a month. Ro Khanna came out with a pretty decent plan using the earned income tax credit to give a big rebate, and then Rashida Tlaib came out with a pretty decent plan as well, which had to do with like minting coins or minting some new type of money, something like that, putting it on a prepaid debit card, giving that to everybody. I think there might be more to it than that, but that was kind of the gist from the headlines I got. That makes a lot of sense. Got to be at least, in my mind, $2,000 a month, like Bernie said. I think, who's it, Representative Kennedy, who was running against Ed, was it Markey, something like that. Anyways, but I think in this case, Kennedy was coming out, sorry, I just had text, was coming out with a plan that called for $2,400. I'm totally fine with either one of those, Bernie's or Kennedy's $2,400. It's got to be, people got to be able to pay their rent, people got to be able to pay their mortgages, put food on the table, not have to worry about that stuff during a freaking pandemic. And again, the United States doesn't have health care. I saw some people were getting treated for this, either they had crappy insurance or no insurance, but they were coming out with $35,000 bill for getting treated for the freaking coronavirus. And you know, a lot of people are going to end up getting having this coronavirus at one point or another. And you know, it's important that the government really steps in and again helps the American people. They've already given upwards, I believe it's over $4 trillion, probably more at this point, to Wall Street in particular. And before it was, I believe, like a $2.7 trillion bailout. That was the equivalent of giving everybody in the United States around $8,000. Now it would be probably 9 or 10. That obviously would have done so much good. The people that aren't in these essential roles, these essential jobs, would be able to, and same for like the delivery truck drivers, people out there making sure the goods are at the stores and the shops, the places that they, you know, need to be. So, you know, I mean, it's, and then again, the whole point of this video, I started to ramble a little bit just because it's really beautiful out here, and it just got me kind of inspired to share some thoughts with you. Joe Biden is silent right now. His handlers again are going with the strategy of limited exposure, both I think due to the more Joe Biden's out there, the more he's going to get called out on his horrible policy and voting record. Again, I'm a broken record at this point, but he's still the front runner, and a lot of things kind of had to fall in place for that to happen. Obviously, like Bloomberg dropping out, endorsing him, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, or Beto O'Rourke just before Super Tuesday, so that's, I mean, he's propped up. Literally that meme, the Weekend at Bernie's meme where they're propping Bernie up, and that's just funny because, Bernie in this case is the one who's got it, and Joe Biden is again playing hide and seek, hiding Biden, WTF Joe, where are you? It's a goddamn pandemic, for Christ's sake. Millions of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are going to end up becoming homeless, not going to be able to put food on the table. Poverty rate's going to skyrocket. It's going to cause more crime. It's going to cause more inequality. It's going to cause more misery. It's going to cause more death, more suffering, more medical bills, all of this shit. And he's nowhere to be seen. And this is your Democratic frontrunner. Again, Trump's already using ads about Joe Biden's absence during this absolutely crucial time, and I mean he's right, both from a political sense and just a moral common sense frame of it as well, because how do you expect Joe Biden to govern 4 years as the president, somebody who will actually be in charge, if he can't even do it on the fucking campaign trail? Go out there, put out a video every day on these different social media platforms online, hold these roundtables, hold these fireside chats, FDR style, like Bernie's doing, but he can't. Because obviously the very serious and sad and troubling cognitive decline that he's experiencing. It's really honestly sad to see, but he's in nowhere near capable enough of a just mental state at this point to be able to hold up to the stress and rigors and demands of being a candidate for president in the year 2020 in the United States. And we need somebody we need somebody out there like Bernie proposing these plans, finding ways to adapt, going online, having these virtual roundtables, having these fireside chats, coming out with these really just on point plans to help address this crisis. We don't need somebody who's hiding Biden. Again, that meme is trending for a reason, and Trump's already using it. Trump's approval ratings are starting to go up with regards to how he's been handling the crisis, because he's coming out with this economic stimulus, some of it going to the working class, and Joe Biden's nowhere to be seen. You have Bernie Sanders out there, and I saw as well the poll was saying that a majority of voters wanted his $2,000 a month as opposed to the $1,000 that the Republicans are proposing. And if Trump wants to get reelected, he's gonna have to again give people more than $1,000 a month. A lot of places you're gonna be hard pressed to pay your rent with that. At least where I live, it's in this part of Washington State, it's pretty expensive, as well as places like LA, San Francisco, New York, Dallas, Chicago, all of these big cities. And even in small cities too, you're not going to be able to cover your rent or mortgage and food and electricities, all that stuff. So, and then Joe Biden, nothing to say about the whole thing. Supposedly, the tweet was, well, my team's figuring out a way to hopefully get us online by next Monday. It's going to be over a week, 8-9 days since you last seen me, and this is during a pandemic and a crisis, but I think my team will have it figured out in a week plus. Joe Biden 2020, hiding Biden. Where are you at, bro? Where the fuck are you at? This ain't no time to be fucking around. But again, they put him out there. It might be even worse, because he's gonna forget where he's at. He's gonna forget what year it is. He's gonna forget what state he's in. He's gonna forget what he's running for. He's going to confuse his sister with his wife. He's, going to just say all this really totally nonsensical things, but the Democratic establishment's going to keep propping him up no matter what, because he'll serve their corporate interests. He'll serve the interests of the health insurance company, the pharmaceutical industry, oil and gas companies, all of these things, because none of his plans do nowhere near enough on issues like the environment, racial justice, economic justice, all of these healthcare, education, all of these different areas, foreign policy. It's just totally inadequate, and he's, again, one of the most important times in U.S. history. This is going to end up being as bad as the Spanish flu, which did not originate in Spain or anything. It actually originated somewhere in the Midwest. But this is potentially millions of people are going to die, and we need somebody who's in office, because these things unfortunately are going to happen again, who's able to get up there, take charge, come together, bring the experts in, get these really progressive and common sense ideas about how to combat them, how to help people from an economic as well as a healthcare, public health perspective as well. Not somebody who can't get out there and do the really important work that needs to be done, and not just really the just total failing of the liberal elite of this country to take into account the needs, or the liberal elite, the Democratic establishment, for them to take into account the needs of everyday people, because by and large, obviously, they're wealthy and powerful, they're millionaires, they're tens of millionaires, there's hundreds of millionaires, there's a lot of billionaires that also donate to the Democratic Party. They're okay, they can get tested, they can, if they have good health insurance, they don't have to worry about going bankrupt, they don't have to worry about losing their job or putting food on the table. They don't understand that, I believe it's 78% or so of the US lives paycheck to paycheck, okay? 87 million people in the US don't have healthcare or are underinsured. 45 million people are drowning in student loan debt. We have more people in prison than any country in the world. We have a horribly, racist criminal justice system. We have a horribly destructive foreign policy that disproportionately kills poor people all over the globe. More often than not, they're darker skinned as well. And, the environment is absolutely imploding. We have these whole host of issues, and we need a candidate who's going to fight for the interests of the people, for the environment, for economic, for social, for racial justice. And that's candidates, obviously Bernie Sanders, and these are life and death, honestly, choices that we're making, and this is a prime example of that. And Biden can't even make it through a week of just getting out there from an online perspective during this pandemic. How is he going to campaign vigorously against Donald Trump? And Trump's going to call him out on that. He's going to call him out on this, the Iraq War, NAFTA, bailing out Wall Street with no strings attached, all of these things. And and then he's calling him Sleepy Joe. He's like, where are you, Joe? Where were you during the pandemic? I was out here giving people money, making America great again, bringing us back to the greatest economy, in a Trump voice. I'm not one for doing Trump voices, unfortunately, but you get the drift. So, and in 2016, one of the things that Trump was saying behind closed doors, I've heard Kyle Kulinski of Secular talk about this a couple times, is the fact that in 2016, the only person Trump was really concerned about Hillary picking as VP was Bernie Sanders, because he was so strong on trade. And Biden's gonna, just get absolutely crushed on trade, on the Iraq War, on corruption, and as well as wanting to cut Medicare, Social Security, all of that stuff. You know, Trump would just be hammering away at those ads on TV, and you know, Bernie is the only choice. Sorry, this is already a 20-minute video, but I mean, you're supporting Joe Biden right now. I really hope this gives you some pause, and if you already have voted for him, I mean, shame on you, honestly, when Bernie Sanders was and has been in the race. And you know, it's just very interesting that I don't want to say a lot, but there's a good chunk of people that actually vote against their own self-interest within the Democratic Party, because we've seen all of the exit polls in every state. I believe it's like 20 out of 20 or so. All the states, the majority of the Democratic voters supported Medicare for all, and yet they voted for Joe Biden in a lot of these states. But you know, Joe Biden doesn't support Medicare for all. His health insurance, or I should say his healthcare plan, leaves 10 million people uninsured, so that means people are still going to be dying and going bankrupt because we don't have health and universal healthcare like every other industrialized country in this world. So, but again, you know, and then, you know, Bernie's sending out text asking to donate. They go to these 5 different organizations helping you know, people and workers and whatnot during this pandemic. Joe Biden sending out texts just asking for money for his campaign, and he's nowhere to be seen, but he still wants your money during a pandemic. Bernie Sanders wants your money to give to these organizations helping people, helping each other out during this coronavirus pandemic. There is no choice. It's Bernie, or it's 4 more years of Donald Trump and the world, and the United States, the environment, you know, migrant rights, you know, all of these things. Healthcare, you know, hangs in the balance, and it's, you know, it's Bernie or it's Trump, and again, we can't afford that. Peace, much love.